Hello, I'm Scott Soshnick.
And I'm Eben Novy-Williams, and this is the Back on the Pirate Ship sports business podcast, the Sporticast.
Erika is smiling, so that's going to lead me to indicate she enjoyed. Erika, Novy has been known from time to time to really stumble with the intro. I ask him to come up with something. Sometimes he prepares. I will say more often than not, he brings good energy, but the creativity is very low. I do it like a figure skater, degree of difficulty, artistic impression. So his degree of difficulty is usually very low, but he tries on the artistic impression. So Erika Ayers.
Triple axles.
Yeah, exactly. He's not doing the double flip layout that Simone Biles just tried and laid it out, So Erika Ayers, CEO Barstool Sports, please grade Eben Novy-Williams' introduction of this show.
Oh, I would give Eben like a 7.4.
Yes.
All right. See now, Eben.
We'll take it.
No. What do you mean? Is that you're a CEO, Erika? Are you happy with an employee that says 7.4 and he says, "I'll take it"?
He was very happy with that 7.
Yeah, what is that business? No, you should consistently be in the 9s because I know what your abilities are. I know what you can do, Eben, and to settle for 7.4 on a consistent basis troubles me.
Okay, I'll strive for more next time.
All right, get to it, Novy. I know you want to do this. Go ahead, get in there.
Yeah, no, Erika, I'm excited to have you on the show. I thank you for joining us. It's been a pretty hectic last couple.
Well, tell the world we were supposed to have her on before.
I know. It's never a dull minute over here.
We were originally going to have you on, I think, literally the day
of
record day that the Barstool Penn National ESPN news came down. For folks who have not noticed or seen or read about it, the Barstool Sportsbook is no more. The Penn National has signed a big $2 billion deal with ESPN. Barstool is back in private hands, sold back to founder Dave Portnoy. I mentioned up there the back to the pirate ship. That seemed to be the way that he wanted to frame things in his mind, and I want to get your thoughts. In his mind, Barstool is back, kind of unencumbered from a heavily regulated area, no longer part of a publicly traded company. In your mind, what does this mean for you personally, and then also for Barstool?
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I've been here almost 8 years, and to sell a company and then buy the company back, and everything in between is a lot. I think we're excited about the Barstool brand and the mission and all of the IP we've created and all of the talent that are here. I think, there's something very different about this company. There's something very different about the alchemy of what we've created. And there's, I think there's something, whether you love Barstool or hate Barstool, there's something either weird or entertaining about this story. Like, only at Barstool would we sell to Penn National and then 3 months later buy the company back. Like, it's bananas. It just doesn't happen. I think it will mean changes here for sure. We need to get skinny. We had the backing of a public company for 3.5 years. We haven't been independent since I joined. So since 2015, Barstool was owned by Dave in 2015. The Chernin Group came in. I came in. So there's a lot that has to manifest with that. But I think the thing that is really great is that Barstool will in a lot of ways go back to what made Barstool so great to begin with, which is the relationship that our talent has with their fans and the content that we're making. I think one of the biggest challenges and learning of the last 3.5 years is just the contortion, and the convulsions we were going through to fit in a publicly traded, highly regulated business.
Can you give an example of a way in which those two
things... Can we say when your phone rang and somebody said to you, Erika, really?
Oh, I mean, daily. When didn't my phone ring with that? But, look, I give Penn a lot of credit for, obviously putting the investment in Barstool, for having the foresight to think about needing a big brand for their sports book. So I give Penn a ton of credit for that. I also give Penn a ton of credit for trying to take a pirate ship and make it work in an environment that's really dictated and predicated on state regulators and state regulation. So, for us, it was everything from, we had a video go viral. Is that too controversial? Would that upset stakeholders, whether those stakeholders were inside of Penn. They were on the regulatory side. They were on the shareholder side. Like Penn has a lot of considerations. They're a very big business. But after a while, it kind of changes who you are and what you do when you're so worried about who you're going to offend. I think one of the things that always made Barstool great, I can remember going on Bloomberg or something like 100 years ago.
You probably did that with us.
Yeah,
I think I did do it with you. And the cron was like, Barstool's offended just about everybody, which I saved. It's the only cron I've ever saved.
That sounds like a Chiron at Bloomberg. That sounds about right.
Yeah. So, but that's when you have a company that's offending everyone and stakeholders that your parent company doesn't want to offend.
Can I ask you this then, Erika? Was this not? And I do not pretend to be a sage. However, was this not predictable? Like, when this was announced, I'm like, I don't think this is going to work. This is just the corporate structure, and you said, particularly one and where you need licenses. Like, what I get on Barstool just doesn't seem to jive with what this company is as a publicly traded entity.
Yeah, I think we made a really good run at it, Scott.
Good try, like, yes.
We gave it the college try, for sure. I do think it was in some ways very predictable. It was always a question. It was always a question for Penn. It was always a question for us. And, in that regard, I think the ESPN partnership is a great one. It's two publicly traded, massive companies, institutionalized in sports and casino. So in that case, it's a much better marriage than the idea of taking something like Barstool and making it, it's kind of like when we tried to mainstream in the first place. Like after a while, at least in my tenure here, I was like, we're never going to mainstream. So we became mainstream. We became the mainstream without changing. And I think this is another one of those moments.
Where was this whole thing in its life cycle in the arc when the guy got fired? I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. Yeah. Where was the whole deal in the life cycle? Because I remember seeing that happen, and I remember seeing Dave taking flack from the core customer going, and I don't know Dave at all, but I'm like, this has got to cut him to the core. Yeah. And I said, something's going to give. And I didn't know this, obviously. I didn't know this was happening, but I said, something has got to give because this for sure bothers the heck out of him.
Yeah, I think, it's hard to say where it was in the process. A lot has transpired, I would say, over the last couple of weeks and months. What I would say, though, about the Mincy incident is really, like, if you take a step back, look, from our vantage point, we had an employee who messed up. We have had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of employees who have messed up. Some have been fired, some have been reprimanded, some have been suspended, some have been defended. Like, we've had the whole gamut. I think what's very uncomfortable for other companies about Barstool is how much of it's not just what's happening, it's how everyone feels about what's happening, which makes Barstool Barstool. Now, that works insanely well for our advertising partners because there's such high engagement and interest, and an on-air talent making a slip and getting fired for it in another company is like one headline. Here it's 5 days on Twitter and it's constant. I would say the other piece of it, if I put myself in Penn's shoes, is look, Penn's a really big company, and when you look at the revenue we drive versus the headaches we create, it's a little bit outside.
Probably an inverse relationship to revenue to headache.
Exactly. So, that's never a good place to be in, I would say, is when the headaches you drive. People say it right now about Warner and Zaslav versus CNN. Like, how much of Warner Discovery, how much revenue is driven by CNN versus headaches from CNN?
I went to college with Chris Lick, just a little added value there.
How was that?
It was fine. Chris was a nice fellow, I know he hasn't told anybody, Soshnick can't do that shit. I haven't heard that out of him. No, but he didn't care what I can do and can't do. I know that much.
Well, good for you.
Erika, I had heard that the talks between Penn and Barstool about the separation took place over 2 weeks, which seems very short to me. I'm curious what that looked like from your end. Did they come to you and say, hey, we're thinking about this. What do you think about that? How did that play out over those 2 weeks?
I can't really talk about that. I don't know if it was precisely 2 weeks. It was very swift. I would say it's very swift. Obviously, there's stuff we can't get into in terms of how that transpired and whatnot. I would say the biggest thing is I think this is a new era in a lot of ways for Barstool, and it'll be really interesting to see what happens with ESPN. You hear about ESPN and Amazon. You now have the ESPN tie-up with Penn. Like, I also think that's interesting, probably the most interesting thing that's happening in the sports betting space.
I'm curious for your thoughts of what's going to happen there. I mean, you've learned something about sort of brand loyal constituency and whether or not they will be patrons of a particular sports betting brand because it's attached to something. What about the power of ESPN and the? I don't know. Like, to me, I'm a casual. I would think I'm target customer. I'm a casual bettor. I'm just a fan, whatever. But I'm brand agnostic. I'm going where I get the best deal. I'm just thinking, what have you learned from being in the business?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think a lot of people are like you, not in life, Scott, but in this regard where, look, if you're a casual bettor, you probably have, 1 to 4 betting apps on your phone. If you feel like betting, you will. You're going to look at the odds. You're going to look at the boost. You're going to look at the bonus, and you're going to make a decision, right? Like, it's a very transactional, and, there is a switching cost, but there isn't a switching cost the same way you think about a cell phone plan or the same way you think about your miles points and stuff like that. So, I don't know what will happen. It's interesting. One of the interesting things that I felt when this happened was I think Fox Bet kind of shut down.
They shuttered. Yeah.
Same week. So in the same week, Fox Bet is dead. ESPN Penn is alive. Barstool's out on its own, which is kind of a seismic week. So I think there's a couple of questions, which is one, look, people like McAfee or Stephen A. or SVP, like, they've got massive talent at ESPN who can get people to love things and do things and engage with things. Two is, I don't know that Fox Bet cracked it, but is there going to be a way where live sports and live sports commentary is there something that ESPN can do that Fox didn't? That I don't know. And then I tend to agree with you, Scott, overall, which is for this particular audience, you're either looking for something. In our case, we were betting on making people laugh or making people engaged, or you wanted the Overs Club jacket because you wanted to be in the Overs Club with Dave Portnoy and Dan Katz. Or you're just getting a great deal, or you're just getting, there's so much advertising, there's so much tonnage that it's hammering you over the head, and you're like, sure, I'll just try it. So I don't know.
They don't know either, but let's find out. That's the beauty. We'll find out.
Yeah, you'll find out, I'm assuming this fall.
I would imagine before the Penn deal, affiliate marketing was in the sports betting space was pretty big for you guys. Does this free you up to go back to that, where you're still at least sharing in some economics of getting people towards gambling sites?
Yeah, look, I think we'll be a juggernaut for, whatever we decide to do next and whomever we do it with. I think we'll convert, second to none, to be honest with you. So I think, there's some time before we get to that. But, what we always did that was very different is, one, at this point, it's a 20-year story. We just had our 20th anniversary, Barstool did. So it's a 20-year story that you're buying into. Two, I would argue, I think we're funnier and weirder and more original about how we think about sports betting and what we do around sports betting. And that will be something that we continue to think about and explore. And then three, I think the great thing in being independent, I use this example, Big Cat has the can't lose parlay. Like, that's not allowed when you're part of a gambling company. Now, it's satire. So satire is fairly key to what we do. So I think what you'll see is, we'll lean on what we know how to do best, which is to make audio content, video content, social content that entertains people, makes people laugh, that's culturally relevant, that gets people talking on the internet. And we'll bring all sorts of brands and products into that. And, as we have done for the last, 10 years.
So you said at the beginning that the new Barstool may look a little bit leaner. I heard Dave Portnoy on Spit and Chicklets earlier this week say that the company's losing about $1 million a month, so a little over $10 million a year. What is the business priority right now? How do you think about getting Barstool back to either even or profitable relatively quickly?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things with it. Dave's on Barstool Radio, like as this is recording, just like ranting about people. So,
who's he ranting about?
Anything,
everything,
everything and everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple things. One is it's been 3.5 years since we've had a very, very active investor. We took on a lot of costs. There's a lot of thinking done when Penn invested in us and then acquired us about what costs belong with Barstool versus what costs belonged inside of Penn. We don't need to carry those costs going forward. So there were things that we did or ways that we hired or places where we staffed to fit into a big, public, highly regulated company, which we don't need to continue to do. I think the second thing, which was, always from the beginning of Barstool, is we were always really, really mindful of money. Like what's made Barstool so interesting is we had such incredible growth. I think we had 3,000% growth profitably. Like profitable growth is something that this company knows how to do. We didn't need to think about that the last couple of years because we were thinking about growing a sports book. We were thinking about integrating into a bigger company. So the changes that I think you'll see are going to be hard for us because it's getting leaner, it's getting more focused, it's getting more disciplined. One of the things we did to grow so much over the last 8 years is to incubate a ton of things and see what worked. And now we need to be a little bit more judicious about what are we greenlighting and what are we not. So I think people who have been here for a long time will get this and fall right into it. I think, we've hired about 100 people a year for the last 3 years. So there's a lot of people who never knew, and a lot, like there's a lot of people here who never knew life before Penn, which this may not be their bag,
They wear khakis. I'm sorry, is that too easy? I like my tagline though. Barstool, the new Barstool, undisciplinedly disciplined. I like that. Yeah. I like it. Let me just philosophically. It's something we say around here, Eric. I'm curious if you agree with it. You don't cut your way to greatness.
Yeah.
You agree with that, and just sort of how does that apply to Barstool?
I 100% agree with that. Two is you don't cut your way to greatness, but you also can't change. It's hard to change without action. You know what I mean? Like that's how I would think about it. Like I think the companies that are looking at a quarter-to-quarter basis and they're like, okay, we're going to move these shells over here and move them over there, or we're going to cut so that our revenue looks better, or really our margin looks better. I don't think that's really what we're doing. What we're doing is saying, hey, we're on our own. I spent last week opening bank accounts. Like, it's like, we're back. Like, I can remember going to the bank on 27th Street in January of or not January, probably it was April of 2016. Like, I'm back at the bank on 27th Street. So It's like,
how many people can cut the checks? How many people's signature get it done?
Not many.
Yep.
Probably two.
I was going to say about two, right.
Two. So I think what we're thinking about, and look, like, I don't want to joke about it. It sucks to cut people. It sucks to get small. It sucks, change is really hard. But this is about, hey, if this thing is going to last another 20 years, we're not going to last in this shape that we're in now.
One of the things I think that I've been really impressed, and I think you guys have done really well, is on the consumer product side. You guys have tried with your own brand and with the brands of some of your podcasts or shows, for example, things like the One Bite Pizza or the Pink Whitney, and I think some of those have done really well, and correct me if I'm wrong, I imagine some of them have maybe not done so well. Is that an area that you do more of or less of in this new era of being a little bit more judicious about what kind of projects you take on?
Oh, I think we do. We've had some great success. Pink Whitney was a great success, right? Like I'm working on another project with Gallo, who, created Pink Whitney with us right now.
And Pink Whitney, for folks who don't know, is a lemonade-flavored vodka done with New Amsterdam, which has been a longtime partner of Barstool's, right. And that came through the Spit and Chicklets podcast. Yep. I'm curious, if there's, to the extent that you can share, what is the economics of a Pink Whitney for the people involved, the brands involved? What does that actually mean for you guys financially?
It's material. I mean, for us, Gallo and New Amsterdam were great partners for a couple reasons. One, they have an exceptional sales force, and two, they have a lot of distribution. And one of the things that's important for us, because we've gotten so big, is when we launch a new brand or a new product, people need to be able to find it. Because when we start to blast it on the internet, people, unlike a lot of other companies, are going to go out and look for it, right?
What about scarcity value? My son wanted Prime. All the kids in his school wanted Prime. Nobody could find it. It was like the Willy Wonka golden ticket when a kid showed up at lunch with Prime.
Which is what happened to us when we launched Pink Whitney. You couldn't get it, which was the best marketing on it. It's amazing. But then after a while, you have to sell the product.
Then you got to deliver some of the stuff.
You got to deliver some. So. For us, the things, I don't think it's a problem for people to struggle to try to find stuff, but it also can be really frustrating, right? Like when we launched One Bite in Walmart wasn't used to people calling individual stores looking for individual SKUs. Like that doesn't really happen at Walmart. So that created a huge kerfuffle of like people are going to Walmart's and then they're pissed that the pizza isn't there. So that kind of is par for the course with us. I think to your question, Eben, like we will do more of those partnerships where they make sense. I think what we have had a lot of failures in the last 8 years on that, but I think we have a pretty good handle on when and why things fail, which hopefully will, not continue to repeat.
I love it bringing up Gallo, like my old friends Ernest and Julio. I think Eben may be too young for the reference, but you probably know Bartles and James.
Definitely.
Eben, you? Bartles and James?
No,
oh my God!
Young for the wine cooler.
It really hurts. It really hurts.
Once a show, we have this moment, Erika, where Scott makes a point, and I have no idea what he's.
And I'm only 29 years old. I don't know how Eben doesn't get these references.
What about like Boone's Farms?
Oh, I don't even know that one. What's Boone's Farms?
Oh my God! It was like sticky alcohol, like sweet, sticky flavored alcohol. It was like a wine cooler, I think.
Right. Oh, no, that one escaped me.
A lot of that in high school.
That may have been, what was the test market in Syracuse? What was the beer, the clear bottle?
Zima.
Yeah, Zima. That was a test market at Syracuse when I was there. I thought that was going to succeed. People drank it.
With the Jolly Rancher.
Yeah. I thought that would work because at least...
They brought it back, so Eben might know it. They did bring that back.
Yeah.
That stuff doesn't reach Princeton.
Scott, Sportico needs we need a vodka or a liquor of some sort.
Yeah, what's a sport? What would be something for the owner's suite, something for our demo, right? What would they be sipping in the owner's suite? That would be akin to a Barstool brand, though. That would be fun if we could come up with that marriage. We'll tax yourself, Erika. I want to know what would that be. Yeah, put your best minds on that.
Yeah, what would that be?
I don't know. We can think. We don't have to come up with it right now, but I'm really curious. Right. Yeah, I'm really curious to see what that would be. And we mentioned Princeton. Let me go to Harvard. If we're doing a Harvard business case study years from now, tell me, what are they saying about Dave's deal? I've heard what everybody has said about Dave's deal to get the company back and sort of the financing around it. As a CEO, as a connoisseur of business deals, your thoughts, what words are we attaching to the deal he cut?
Oh, I think you can't just look at this last deal. I think you have to look at all the deals. Like if I'm writing the Harvard business case, you're really questioning how a guy created a newspaper when newspapers were dying, turned it into a blog that basically didn't function, followed by an app that functioned probably technically worse than the blog, and parlayed that into a massive, massive media brand with not a lot of investment. And I think what it all comes down to is it's just the relationship Dave has with his fans. It's the audience. Like And when you have that, and we've been able to find a lot of people who have that, a lot of our early talent that Dave discovered himself, Big Cat's perfect example of that, has that. Really, anything is possible in business.
To that point, Erika, about the audience, I hear this a lot. I'm sure you hear it way more than I do. The question about, as Barstool gets older, its core audience who's been there 20 years ago when it was a small shop in Boston also gets older, and their interests change. How much you think about kind of moving content with the audience as it gets older versus signing on new 19-year-olds who obviously were not there when you guys were in Medford.
This 30 minutes of Barstool brought to you by Geritol.
Sure. That's what you should bring to the owner's suite.
Geritol flavored vodka. Yeah.
Doan's Pills and Geritol, yes.
Exactly. It's prune flavored. What was I going to say? I think there's a couple things. This year we got recognized as the 6th biggest brand on TikTok in the world. So that right there shows you there is a massive, 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 very young audience. If you look at the average age of someone on TikTok, I don't know, it's 18 max. I think a lot of our content appeals to the people who got the paper or read the blog to begin with, right? Dave certainly appeals. I think Big Cat appeals. Chiclets appeals. If you look at Pardon My Take as a brand, that's a brand where dads are listening and their sons are listening or their kids are listening. We also have, Dave and I were talking this morning, we have a woman here, an intern, goes to school in Poughkeepsie, New York, called Moobs, who's on TikTok, who everyone's like, Moobs, Moobs, Moobs. And Dave and I are like, who's Moobs? And she was an intern, and she...
Marist?
Yeah, she goes to Marist.
Yeah.
She goes to Marist. And one of our guys took her under his wing and, taught her the ropes on TikTok. She literally sits outside my office and just makes TikToks all day. But that's something that, a 55-year-old in Massachusetts isn't thinking about Moobs, and a 20-something in Montauk isn't reading the blog. So it's like, and we're okay with that.
Novy-Williams, have you encountered Moobs? Do you know this person?
I'm not on
TikTok. I will go search as soon as we finish.
Demographic is sadly too young. Yeah, that was not my demographic.
Yeah, I was not aware of it. I will go check it out. So, Erika, give me a. I know this is like 30,000. It's not Barstool specific. Give me your just sort of your overview of the media business, sports media these days. I mean, ESPN's trying to figure stuff out. We're trying to figure stuff out. I think we created a brand. I'm right there with you. We started this thing, middle pandemic, and we've cut through the clutter. Of course, we're much more niche than what Barstool hopes to be. I get it. But your take, just overall sports media.
I think the brands like yours and front office, like I feel you. Like you see more, like Puck is now, like, if you're following the Scooter Braun and everybody's dumping Scooter Braun as the manager, like Puck broke that story, right? Super niche, newsletter driven, subscription oriented. So I do think there's this place right now where brands that are very focused, that are editorial in nature, people are resonating. They stand for something. They have something to say. There's interest and thought put into the content, and they're not designed for the feed, right? Like, I think that's the big difference for the digital companies. I think, you guys would know way more than me about what's happening at NBC or what's happening at ESPN or CBS or any of those guys. Like, I don't hear much. I don't see much. I think the Amazon ESPN tie-up would be really interesting, obviously.
The New York Times just got rid of its sports staff almost entirely and is going to use The Athletic to
we hear streaming. The whole world's moving to streaming, and yet Fox has, for all intent and purposes, really sat out the streaming revolution, right? And probably happy they did so. Let's see how it shakes out. It's just amazing to me that we have all these companies. These are smart folks looking at the same landscape, taking diametrically different approaches to where they're going.
Yep. Yeah, look, I think nobody knows. And I think it's really, people are taking stock of what is the asset that they have. In our case, it's highly prolific, social first content creators and a massively loyal audience. In your case, it might be something a little bit different than that, or more focused on that. It might be more of an elite audience. It might be more of a curated audience. It's a more editorial.
I'll sell you on my demo any day, Erika.
I love it. I'm all in. I am a demo.
I think.
Are you a subscriber? Hold on. She said she's our demo. Are you a subscriber? All right. Now I feel better. I would have been nicer to you this whole time. I kid. We've been great.
I was going to say, I think that for almost all of these companies, whether you're huge, you're medium, you're small, community building feels like the thing that media companies need to get into. And again, Erika, I think you guys have done a really good job at that. It's something we talk about a lot at Sportico. It's a different community, obviously, but how do we create something that is more than just. We don't want to be just a place you come to for news. We want to be a place where you can learn ideas from or bounce ideas off of or have something, whether it's a podcast or a live event, where people feel like they are a part of the bigger thing. And again, I think that is something that Barstool has done very well, and I think a lot of news organizations can learn from that.
Yeah, I think you have to have a point of view. You guys have a point of view. I think it's
I,
hard to get community when you don't have a point of view.
And this is impossible. And this is just a fun thought leadership exercise, and then we'll be done with this. But just for fun, if we were sitting around spitballing, I would love to see what is the Venn diagram of Sportico and Barstool, where we say, what could we do together where the brands made sense? I don't want to force it. Could we come up with a thought exercise? What is it? I don't know if it's an event, it's a podcast. I don't know. I'm just for fun. I'm trying to think of what would make sense. Can anybody on this podcast come up with something quickly? I cannot. I will say right off the bat, I cannot.
To a degree, Erika, your podcast, The Token CEO, I think it's a business show at its heart. Like I do think that there's definitely some overlap there for sure.
Yeah, like I think I'm very interested in LinkedIn right now, for example. Like I'm playing a lot with LinkedIn.
We are too.
And I think there's something, it's weird, like LinkedIn doesn't inspire or cater to or in any way incentivize content creators to do more on LinkedIn. Like imagine if they did, you know? In my mind, like they're going to figure that out sooner rather than later, and the groups and the brands like yours or mine figure that out. Like there's going to be value there.
I think Elon Musk finally got there when Threads came out, but yeah, whoever incentivizes the creators.
That's where the creators
go. Yeah, that's where I'll go. Fine. But give me a reason to be on your platform.
Totally.
And stop upselling me. Yeah. Oh, my God. If I keep getting upsells from LinkedIn, I'm going to shoot myself.
Does the uncertainty around social media in America right now, whether it's what happens with TikTok or what happens with Twitter/X, or is Threads the new platform, does all that, does it affect your business? How much do you guys spend thinking about kind of making sure you're ahead of what may happen if this platform suddenly becomes way less popular or heavily regulated, et cetera?
Yeah, I think we don't spend too much time. We're certainly paying attention to it, right? We don't spend a whole lot of time worrying about it, because what's going to happen is, I don't know, TikTok gets shut down, or Elon, nukes X, something else will be created. Like something else will fill the void. I don't see social media and social media consumption going away ever. I think it will just be distributed differently. And the pie is growing so much. So no, I don't spend a whole lot. I mean, I'm interested in it personally, but for our business, the bigger gating factor for us is, there's an ever-changing sense of what the community guidelines are. Like what's permissible today on Facebook, or what's permissible today on Snapchat versus what was permissible yesterday. And so we spend a lot more time looking at that, to be honest.
All right, Erika Ayers, CEO of Barstool Sports. I want you to stick around, though, if only because I like Eben to close the show. Like I put that onus on him, and it really is a bit of a high wire act. He nailed it last week. The first time I think he's ever gotten it, the way it should be. But now that he's thinking about it and he knows he has an audience, I want to see if he can do it. So
I'm going to nail this.
So thank Erika, and then let me see you go right into the close. But I think you're thinking about it right now a little bit.
I got it.
All right,
Special thank you to Erika Ayers, the CEO of Barstool. You can find her on Twitter at Erika_. Scott, she's got.
I hate the
well.
underscore. I hate the underscore.
The underscore hater is Scott Soshnick. You can find him at Soshnick. I am Eben Novy-Williams. You can find me on Twitter at Novy_Williams.
Yeah.
The show is produced by Keith Zanardi and Aaron Greenewald. So
Well
shout
done.
out to both of them. Sportico's digital media editor, Cora Veltman, would like you to know that you can follow
he's
the show
over the hump.
at Sporticast.
That's the hump
which is
right there.
The hub of the Sportico media